Okay, so before we get too much further, we need to kind of unpack some notation here. We use a certain notation to describe each term of the sequence. I'm going to start with the most general case here. It says a sub n describes the nth term of a sequence. That means that as I change that n value, I am talking about different terms of the sequence. So starting here, with a sub 1, that means I'm looking at the first term, okay? So all I've done is I've substituted in a 1 for n, and then that signifies to me that I'm looking at the first term. In a sub 2, I'm looking at the second term, and a sub 3 tells me I'm looking at the third term. And this can continue for all the other natural numbers, right? You can find the fourth term, the fifth term, you can describe the sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth term, all of that. One thing that can be a little bit confusing is this idea of a sub 0, this idea of the 0th term, okay? Depending on the information you're given, your sequence might be one that starts at the 0th term or the first term. And all that's happening there is a difference between whether or not your sequence starts when n equals 0 or when n equals 1. And there's a couple examples in the practice problem that help you kind of see the difference here. Okay, so I want to go ahead and put this notation into practice. This next little piece of your note says that instead of listing out the terms of a sequence, we can actually express a sequence as an equation. So for example, we can express a sequence like this, a sub n equals 2n plus 10, okay? So if I were to take that sequence, I could actually plug in different values of n to generate all the terms of my sequence, okay? So if I plug in n equals 0, let's see, I'm gonna make that a little bit smaller. If I do n equals 0, that means that I am finding the 0th term, and I'm told to plug in 0 anywhere that there was an n. Okay, so doing a quick evaluation, I see that a sub 0 is 10. If I let n equal 1, that means I am calculating the a sub 1 term, right, the first term here, and that tells me to plug in 1 anywhere I see an n. So we have 2 times 1 plus 10, which gives us 12. Letting n equal 2 is calculating the a sub 2 term. So 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 10 equals 14. And then finally, if I were to calculate n equals 3, that would help me find the a sub 3 term, which is 2 times 3 plus 10, which is equal to 16. So what this means is that the equation a sub n equals 2n plus 10, it means that that describes the sequence of terms 10, 12, 14, 16, dot, 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 right? It doesn't tell me that I'm going to end at any point, where a sub 0 equals 10. And it's really important to communicate that starting point, right? It's important for us to know, did 10 come from plugging in n equals 0, or did 10 come from plugging in n equals 1? Okay, so the next part of this is to practice matching these sequences and their equations, okay? So to get you started, I'm going to go ahead and look at practice A. So practice A, or I'm sorry, equation A. Equation A says that a sub 0 equals 2, okay? And then a sub 1, I would be plugging in 1 squared plus 2 times 1 plus 2, that would equal 5, okay? Then a sub 2 would be equal to 2 squared plus 2, let me rewrite that a little bit better, 2 squared plus 2 times 2 plus 2 which that's 4 plus 4, 8 plus 2 is 10. So I have a sub 0 equals 2, a sub 1 equals 5, a sub 2 equals 10. Now, this is a little bit confusing because if you look at 5, you have the numbers 2, comma 5, comma 10, comma 17. But if you look at 9, you have the numbers 5, comma 10, comma 17. So there's a little bit of a difference, right? The sequence in 5 is showing you that the first term is 2, and the sequence in 9 is showing you that the first term is 5. So what I'm going to do is analyze which one do I have here. What is my first term here? It says my first term is 5. So I am actually going to match sequence A to the sequence of terms in 9. Okay, so a little bit of a subtle difference there between those two lists of numbers. So go ahead and try to match the remaining sequences and equations and make sure you check your answer key. Let me know if you have any questions.